Welcome to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX. Here are your hosts, the radio vagabond Palabo and TBEX CEO Rick Calvert.
Welcome to Travel Matters. My name is Palabo and I am in Melbourne, Australia right now. And Rick, you're back home in Utah. So the time difference is like crazy. It's 9 a.m. here. What is it where you are?
3 o'clock in the afternoon here.
So a lot of time difference between us, but we are managing to make it work.
And I will publicly admit my mistake this morning or earlier today for me. You got up at 4:30 to do an episode with Shane in Kenya, but I wasn't here. So
I was not going to mention that. I was not going to mention that, Rick.
I feel bad about it.
A good friend. I want not to humiliate you publicly for waking me up at 4 a.m. To do an interview that you didn't show up to.
I deserve it.
No, I agreed with Shane that it's much better that you guys talk. So I hope that you, because I'm going to be a little bit unavailable in the coming days. So I hope that you will do the episode with Shane where you talk a lot about Greece and maybe dive a little bit into Durban, South Africa as well, because I know that Shane is totally involved in both of these, and then we will get that episode out because it's always great to have Shane on the show.
We'll get that done.
Exactly.
Coordinating North America, Europe, and Australia is hard.
Because it was we agreed on 5 a.m. for me, and that was 9 p.m. for Shane, and it was maybe 11 a.m. for you, spread out on 2 different days, and it was crazy, but but now it's more decent hours, and we have a guest today who's a serial entrepreneur. And almost in the same time zone as you, I think just 1 hour earlier than you, or ahead of you. So let's dive into that one. Welcome to Travel Matters.
So our guest today is a very distinguished guest, Dannelle Gay, and hopefully I'm saying her name correctly now. She's giving me the thumbs up. That's a good sign.
I think that's because you said distinguished.
Yeah. So because she's a multiple best-selling author, okay? Just in travel and beyond travel as well. She is a professional chef. She has a coffee company, and she happens to be a travel blogger. And I know she has more than one site, but I met her as the Traveling Cheesehead. And Dannelle wears the Cheesehead sometimes, like you see at the Green Bay Packers games. And she's got 2 or 3 TV shows, if I'm keeping up with that. So a lot of things. Yeah, a lot of things.
Dannelle, do you have clones? How are you managing to do that? Because you also told me that you do 10,000 words a day, and then you still do all the other stuff as well.
I have a team. I have a staff of 14 people that makes me look brilliant and very well organized. So you find good people and you hang on to them like crazy because they make me look absolutely brilliant.
Well, I thought it was all you, so now I don't want to say I'm less impressed. I don't want to say I'm less impressed, but
she's still distinguished.
Yeah. Well, I'm impressed in a whole different way because I didn't know that you were managing a team of 14 people. I knew that you had people you work with, like you had introduced me to people on your publisher side who did books. And there was another thing you introduced me to, 2 different things. One was your publisher who sent me a review copy of the book, and another one you sent me to about a potential bulk order of books. We'd like to do a giveaway in Wisconsin of your books to attendees there.
Aww.
So, yeah, I knew you were working with other folks there. But having a team of 14 people, not a lot of bloggers have that. That's like Yosh Demon territory right there.
Well, I call it Traveling Cheesehead Productions, and that's got like 15 of my travel companies under it, different websites, the TV shows I do, the travel related books, the coffee line. And, I've got one administrative assistant who she like oversees everybody, and she's brilliant. But when I have like the book tour PR stuff going through, she helps coordinate a lot of that stuff. She helps book different people. I have 2 TV shows. These are really wild names. One's called the Traveling Cheesehead Visits and one's the Traveling Cheesehead Eats. So, very unique. What a stretch there, I know. But, so the Traveling Cheesehead Eats is a half-an-hour show that's new, and it's Wisconsin restaurants. And she's helped me reach out to different Wisconsin restaurants and, kind of cold pitch them to see if they were interested. And then the Traveling Cheesehead Visits, I can visit anywhere. I'll be in March. I'm in everywhere from Irving, Texas to Lake Charles, Louisiana. So
a frequent TBEX sponsor, Lake Charles. We like them.
I love Lake Charles. I get to go work with them and then also go RVing at the same time.
Another TBEX sponsor, Go RVing. Yeah, keep naming them off, Dannelle. We love.
Well, and that's the best thing about TBEX is you bring such quality people together that it's easy to make those connections. It's kind of like feel it's like a first date where you're like, ooh, are we going to match? Is this something that going forward would work for both of us? And you bring some quality people to the table on all ends of the spectrum, I think.
And now we're coming to your home state. How do you feel about that?
I know. I think it's fantastic. So I'm excited because there's so many amazing things in Wisconsin.
Now, let's start from the beginning. Dannelle, you were born and raised there?
Correct.
And what town do you live in?
I'm currently in Sun Prairie. I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, the capital. And no, we do not all have tractors. We do not all have pet cows, but we do mostly like cheese.
And the Green Bay Packers.
Definitely the Green Bay Packers. I am a
and the Milwaukee
lover.
Bucks.
Oh, and Milwaukee Bucks, the Milwaukee Brewers. We're so lucky. We have 3 different, professional sport teams in our state. In addition to an amazing, the Wisconsin Badgers, they have 23 amazing teams. And then we have some minor leagues also.
So Dannelle, you said you're doing something with the Milwaukee Bucks, like maybe some kind of giveaway or something.
Working
like that.
on something with the Milwaukee Bucks. So we don't have it nailed down yet, but also in Madison, they have a minor league and it is the Madison Mallards. And so working on something possibly with them on either their Wisconsin day or they have a 608 day, which is that area code. So it's fun.
Can you get the Greek freak to come visit with us in Kalamata?
I don't know. That would be a cool, wouldn't it?
I don't expect that. But if anybody doesn't follow basketball, he's like arguably the best player in the NBA right now.
He's in the book. He's in the book. That was an amazing championship.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I saw a great story on him. His life story. He's an incredible guy. Great player.
And I've only been to Wisconsin once, and that was part of my visit when I was in Chicago, and I drove up to Racine, which is just south of Milwaukee. And the reason I did that is that I'm Danish, and there's a big Danish community there, and a big Danish bakery, O&H bakery, that does the famous kringle that they send out to all of the country, mail order. So I went and got a tour of the Danish bakery and saw this big Danish community. It was so fun for me to drive around, seeing so many Danish names on shops. But that was... It's just in the southern part of the state, so I can't wait to go back and see much more because, as you say, there is so much more to see in Wisconsin.
Of course, I put Eat a Racine Kringle in the book, and I talked about O&H because that's the place. And it looks like I'll be doing a book signing event at their flagship store. But next time you're in Racine, also check out the Racine Art Museum. They do a fun competition with Peeps candies. So right at Easter time, and it's going to be kicking off pretty quick. So for 2 weeks, they showcase this exhibition. People from around the world send in their art that's made with Peep candies. It's hilarious. It's so cool. And
these are like the marshmallow Peeps?
Yeah. You can use the bunnies or you can use the little chicks.
So, Pally, have you ever had a Peep?
I have not.
Have you ever heard of a Peep? I don't know if this is just an American thing, if our folks in Europe and other parts of the world have heard of peeps before.
I must admit, I've never heard of a peep. I've never heard a peep of a peep.
So my wife's grandmother loves Peeps. So for any occasion, she gives our girls Peeps. But typically, Pale, Peeps are something you get on the Easter holiday. So we go and hunt Easter eggs. The little kids do.
Yeah.
And you get a little basket full of candies and toys and stuff, and there's always Peeps in the basket. So that's a very... I don't know how many Peeps... Maybe, Dannelle, you know something about that because they're from there. But I don't know how many Peeps they sell not at Easter.
I like to get the snowman Peeps because I think I stock up on them because they look great floating in hot chocolate. But now I'm going to have to send something to the Peeps people because they're going to have to send you Peeps for the bags and TBEX because now that we've talked about Peeps, we need to have Peeps at TBEX. I'm going to talk to them.
For sure. I'm sure there'll be other people who've never heard of a Peep before at TBEX, so that'd be a fun thing.
I'm sure.
Making a note right now. Peeps for TBEX. I'm connecting you.
Yeah.
All right.
And quickly circling back to the O&H Bakery, I did a whole episode on my own podcast where I got the tour around there. But Dannelle, you mentioned your book. You're putting that in your book that's coming out in March, just in time for TBEX. It's called 100 Things to Do in Wisconsin Before You Die, right?
Correct. And that was so hard because there's like 1,000 amazing things you can do in Wisconsin that, right off the top of my head. So I had to narrow it down and kind of balance out the state. But finding also unique hidden gems, things that you can only do in Wisconsin. I mean, that was the fun part.
Yeah. And I guess there's a volume to 100 more things to do.
Well, I couldn't get as many.
You can have that. You can have that idea for free.
Okay. Note to self. Yes. I need a lot of Post-it notes today.
Yeah.
And now you're doing another book just on restaurants in Wisconsin?
Yeah. I'm working with Reedy Press on that one again also. And it's Unique Eats and Eateries of Wisconsin. So it is going to let me showcase 84 fun different places to eat. And I get to tell more of their story, kind of, the backstory behind them, which I only had about 160 words per business in the first book with them. And that's hard to tell somebody's backstory in 160 words. So I'm really excited about this project.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
How did you become the Traveling Cheesehead, and how did you start your travel blog? How long has that been happening? Tell us the origin story.
I've been in there, I want to say almost 15 years now as a blogger. And it was originally kind of a lifestyle blog. It was about saving money. And, the powers that be in Google decide that if you're a lifestyle blog, you've got too many things in there. So you're not exactly an expert on any, thanks to their algorithms. So I pulled different things off and created different blogs. So I have a camping blog. I have a travel blog. I had a garden blog. I had a pet blog. I pulled a lot of these out and then saw the traffic skyrocket. But I was up to 31 blogs. I've sold off 10. And I've really been focusing more just on the travel because that's my passion. I love going places, learning about history, food, the people, and then telling those stories to other people to get them to go there. So when I created the travel website, Traveling Cheesehead, that just seemed like a fit because it's kind of fun and quirky. And I run a serious business, but I don't take myself that seriously. So you've seen my business cards. I'm wearing the cheese hat. The cheese hat picture is on my boxes of coffee. It's everywhere because it just reminds me that, no matter what I do, it's got to be fun.
So you were a chef before you started the travel blog.
Yeah, I had a restaurant and a catering company for 10 years. So it was right here in Sun Prairie, and it was with my mom. And I don't think I've ever worked so hard in my life. We would put in 80-hour weeks, but we had a staff of up to 40 people. It was restaurant and catering. And, 10 years, that was enough. It was time to move on to different things.
The restaurant business is tough.
Oh, it's very hard. Perishable product. It's one of the few businesses with a perishable product. Very labor intensive.
And a lot of customer service. Every single person you're dealing with, you have to make sure they're happy, they enjoy their food, they don't think it's too expensive. There's so many factors with a restaurant.
That's why I have the restaurant TV show that I started this year, is because we talk about, the history of the restaurant, the inspiration for their menu. And then I talk about how did you make it through COVID? Because a lot of places couldn't figure out how to pivot. I want to say that 28% of restaurants across the nation closed, if I'm correct. I'm going off of memory here on notes.
It's definitely that or more. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then I talk about right now what challenges they're facing with inflation, because in my local grocery store last week, eggs were over $6 a dozen and butter was $8.99 a pound. So when someone goes out to breakfast with their family on Sunday, they don't want to pay $20 for 2 eggs, bacon, toast,
and you guys
brown.
make butter in Wisconsin.
I know. Yeah, really?
I know. It can't get any cheaper.
I'm thinking good cows. No. So how are they handling inflation? I want to tell that story and let them tell that story and how they're being creative with their menus, because I hate seeing on Yelp or Facebook in these restaurant review groups and stuff, people complaining about prices. And I'm just sitting there going, have you been to your own grocery store? You're talking about an Indian restaurant that's not a chain that uses gourmet ingredients, and you're complaining about the price. It's letting them tell their story. I think it becomes more powerful and impactful.
So 15 years ago, you started the blog. How long did it take for you to get traction and start working with tourist boards and working with sponsors? Did you think about that from the very beginning? Was it a business from the beginning, or was it more for fun when you started?
Oh gosh, it wasn't a business one. And things were so different 15 years ago. You would do a blog post that just had a meme in it and like a ha 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 or something like that. And 300-word posts, those were the norm. And now it's like, wait a minute, you're under 1,500 words? SEO, I didn't even know what that was back then. So it's definitely become more of a business going forward. But I still have posts from 15 years ago that have gotten traction, which just cracks me up. Because me looking back at them, I go, but then again, my first TV shows, I kind of feel like, they were so nice to me. Because when we start anything, I always think that published is better than perfect. Get it out there and fine tune it as you go. And the audience will find you and they will, listen to your message. They hear you through the foibles of what you learn as you're going along. So at least that's my philosophy.
So those old posts, did you go back and edit any of them to improve your SEO once you learned that was a thing? Because I know a lot of bloggers will do that and go and update old posts.
Oh yeah, there was the audit, and then I have an annual update schedule now where every post on each site is built into the audit system. So every month we know how many we update, go back and look at, see how they're doing, things like that. How can we make it better? Because it's our job to make sure that we keep the message of a brand or a destination, on the front page of Google if we can. So it's our job to make sure that's part of it, is make sure those posts are still working for them.
When I spoke to Shane in the middle of the night, and I told him that we were going to speak to you, he said, "Oh, she's so great. And one thing I like about her is that she's into long-term relationships more than one-night stands when it comes to brands."
Exactly. I don't want to be a one-night stand. I want a partnership. And it was so funny because when I was talking to Shane, because I'm going to be speaking about this at TBEX, and he said, get a few quotes from people on stuff. And I got this great quote from Susan. I love her. Janesville CVB, another one that you had down there in Louisiana. And I said, Susan, real quick, because when I say anything, she's like, what do you need? And I said, can I get a quote from you that I can use when I'm speaking at TBEX? And she's sure, right away. And first thing she put in there was, first of all, because I love you, which was sweet. But she goes, Dannelle's creativity and drive in promoting our destination is incredible. She never ceases to come up with a great new angle and medium to reach our intended market. And it's not one and done with Dannelle. She's in it for the long haul and dedicated to continued support and promotion. The fact that she continues to reach out to us with ideas is a huge value.
That's awesome.
That's from a CVB. And that's because I don't do one article for my website. Then I pitch someone that I freelance for. Then I come back. She was my first TV segment, Traveling Cheesehead Visits Janesville. I said, I have this crazy idea. She goes, I'm in. So, it's having this relationship with destinations that when I have a new idea or a new book or a new show or something, I can go back and right away they're like, what do you need? And I think that's the beauty of this business.
Well, we love Susan Melton at Janesville, Wisconsin as well. But wouldn't you say that's not typical, or maybe it is in the Midwest where you are? But, we preach this at TBEX. We've done keynotes on this, and we speak about it all the time, about long-term relationships and working with locals how valuable that can be to a DMO and to a business in the travel industry, where we see them more frequently not work with locals, and they're very campaign oriented, so they want to work with you this one time, the campaign's over, and they're done with you.
I think since COVID, some of that has changed. I mean, when people couldn't leave their state, you tended to look more towards the people that were in your state to see how they could help you with that message. But I mean, I've seen some of that still to this day in Wisconsin. There's a CVB or two that would rather bring somebody in than work with somebody who's literally writing a book on their state. But most of them, absolutely fantastic. Washburn County, Eau Claire is fantastic. Milwaukee. I mean, I actually put some of these people who helped me out in the acknowledgement in my book, and I called them out by name. Excellent. Because they were so helpful in that partnership or relationship.
So let's talk a little bit about Wisconsin, Dannelle, because that's one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you, because you and I had a conversation the other day about you speaking at TBEX before you talked to Shane, and I just wanted to follow up with you after Lafayette, and you just kept naming off things, and I said we have to have you at the on the podcast. So, what are things people should think about doing while they're there, and maybe plan ahead, spend some extra time both in Eau Claire and in other places of the state while they're there for TBEX?
Well, first of all, they have to come. They definitely have to come. I think that if they're questioning and they're going, why? I'm like, they need to come to see how amazing it really is. It's an incredibly diverse state. There are so many different ethnicities that came into Wisconsin. There was the mining, the logging, the fishing. I mean, so many different industries that Wisconsin was built off of. I think that if they come, they're going to be dazed and amazed. I would come early if I were them and start maybe north of Eau Claire, Washburn County. That's where I think I told you about. It's the only place you can ride one of the Zephyrs. They built 10 of these shovel nose steamers in the mid 30s, and the Mark Twain Zephyr has been restored, and that is at the railroad just there in Spooner, and so that they can ride the train there. And it's the only place there's two other that have been refurbished and they're in museums, but it's the only place that they can ride one of those amazing shovel nose steamers. The Perlick Distillery isn't that far from up there, and they make an amazing vodka. It's not farm to fork like a lot of Wisconsin. It's farm to cup or glass, because they have craft cocktails and all sorts of fun stuff. The Canoe Heritage Museum is right up there too. And I learned more about canoes than it blew my mind. It was crazy. So I get a kick out of things like that, especially the food in the area. Like Round Man Brewing Company had an amazing, I'm a brandy girl. It's Wisconsin. They actually had a Rogue whiskey, old fashioned that I was like, okay, I can see this one. This is good. But it was a smoked one. They did a fireboxed old fashioned that just blew my socks off.
You told me that brandy is kind of a local favorite drink, right?
That's because of World War II. So you had the Depression, and then you had World War II that brought in all the manufacturing and helped get us out of the Depression too. But right after the war, it was still hard to get supplies. And so Wisconsin had a choice of really crappy alcohol, or there was this huge cache of brandy that was found just outside of Chicago. So Wisconsin took the brandy. And so you had all of these veterans and their families and their wives that they were drinking. The bartenders got creative. We had everything from brandy old fashions to brandy Alexanders, those ice cream drinks. But then their kids drank it. And then my generation is drinking it. And now the next generation is going to drink it. They flooded the market with the brandy. And that's why to this day, we take 70% of Corbel from California.
I did not know that brandy was a thing in Wisconsin till you mentioned it.
Now, of course, I have my own cocktail. There's the Traveling Cheesehead cocktail, and it uses brandy.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about Wisconsin Dells. I'm fascinated with that. I've heard people say it's the water park capital of the world.
It is. And a lot of people think, okay, wait, Wisconsin, they have snow up to 8 months of the year. So that means we can only go to the water park maybe part of June, July, and some of August. But we're looking at indoor water parks, outdoor water parks, and there's so much more than that. Incredible fudge. If you want to know the history of sarsaparilla, they've got a root beer museum that you can check out. Wizard Quest is a fun interactive game. I would personally have a couple cocktails first and then do a team to go to Wizard Quest together to kind of find stuff, because I think it'd be more fun that way. There's just so many cool things there.
And we're going to be there in the summertime.
Yep, absolutely. And Pally, you saw the water park in Phuket. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I've been to, I guess, normal water parks. They do them kind of next level there.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know right in Eau Claire, there's the Paul Bunyan Museum. People have heard of Paul Bunyan. Dannelle, maybe you can tell us about that. Is he from Minnesota? Is he from Wisconsin?
Well, it's kind of a legend, and it depends on where he's from. I've heard several different states claim that,
That's like Minnesota Fats.
It's like, I don't know. But the Logging Museum is a really great place to see. I actually had that in the book. It's one of my favorite Eau Claire things. I'm excited to be checking out the Leinekugel's Brewery when I'm there because I wasn't able to get that in yet. So that's like going to be a first for me. But then there is all sorts of fun, different places that I haven't seen them talk about yet, like Reboot Social. That would be something to hit on your own time. In Eau Claire, it's one of their newest restaurants, and it's got a great menu, but they also have a ton of arcade games, kind of like stepping back to an old school arcade. So a lot of fun stuff in the area there.
Thank you so much, Dannelle. I can't wait to get back to Wisconsin and see you in person and see your beautiful state.
I look forward to meeting you.
See all the links mentioned in this episode in the show notes and on tbexcon.com/podcast.
Thank you so much to Dannelle Gay from Wisconsin, and I cannot wait to get there and hear her talk. She seems really like a person that's got so much to share, Rick.
And we barely scratched the surface in the podcast of things to do in Wisconsin. Like, she said, she has 1,000 things that we could do. So she's going to give us quite a few more of those in a blog post as well, and we'll let folks know when that goes out. But yeah, she's been incredibly successful, as you heard in several different areas. But just as a travel blogger, a travel creator, she's been incredibly successful and really did it from the ground up, which is exactly the kind of thing that we talk about at TBEX, that we try to help other people do. And she's a perfect example of the kind of speaker that you'll see when you come to TBEX that you can learn from.
Since I saw you last, have any more news about some of the speakers at Wisconsin?
We have new keynote speakers to announce, Squirmy and Grubbs.
Squirmy and Grubbs.
Squirmy and Grubbs. It is a couple. They're married. They have a YouTube channel with 1.14 million subscribers. And we met them through our friends in Wisconsin. They had done a fam trip to Eau Claire and worked with them. And it's an interesting story how they met and how they travel. Squirmy talks about his disability. He travels with a motorized, wheelchair. And so he talks about accessibility issues and all those sorts of things. But their keynote will be about, how their YouTube channel and other social media have evolved over the years. I see they just posted, they posted a little while ago, their wedding video. It's got over 2 million views for that. So incredibly successful, and we're looking forward to that keynote in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yeah. But we're going to see each other before then in Kalamata.
Kalamata, Greece.
And that's going to be epic as well. So for people who are not up to date, there are 3 TBEX events coming up this year. It's in Greece. In May, it's in Wisconsin. In July, and then in October, we're going to South Africa, to Durban, South Africa. It's going to be a busy year.
A busy year, and obviously we're excited about all the destinations. Greece, I learn more things about the Peloponnese every day, of things that I want to see when I'm there. They're great partners. That event will sell out. So if you want to join us in Kalamata, you should sign up sooner instead of later. And anybody who listens to the podcast or, sees our typical marketing, we're not high pressure people. We don't say, hey, get this or it's going to sell out. Because usually that's not the problem, right? Usually we got a huge place. In this case, we don't, and it will sell out. So you should sign up sooner instead of later.
Right.
South Africa, I think our next episode we'll talk quite a bit about South Africa, Pale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we'll have Shane join us for that, and we'll start talking about our first round of speakers there, some of the other things that we have happening. It will be incredible. It'll be a first time on the continent of Africa. Our partners there with KZN in Durban and the South Africa Tourism Board have been fantastic. We've been working on this for 7 years now. And I know it's one of your favorite countries, South Africa.
It is, absolutely.
Maybe you could share just a little bit of why you love South Africa.
I love it for so many reasons, but the main reason is the people. And they are just so easy to connect with. When I had my first visit in Cape Town in 2013, whenever I met somebody and they thought, oh, you should meet my friend. And then they would introduce me to their friend and they would say, oh, you're a friend of my friend, so you're also my friend. So we're having a braai on Saturday, which is South African for barbecue. When can you be here? Not can you be here, but we expect to see you. And it's people I don't know. And if you're in a supermarket, you would automatically start chatting to people in the line, and that kind of thing appeals to me. I like speaking to random strangers and making new friends. So they're very open. They got a great sense of humor. And then obviously it's a country that has challenges still, but I have so many good things to say about the country. And a lot of people say, oh, it's so dangerous. And yes, there are pockets, especially in the bigger cities, that you won't go down a dark alley in the middle of the night, but people who say South Africa is such a dangerous country, it's in pockets, and most of it is beautiful, and they got so much to share. I think, in honesty, that's true about every country. Yeah, United States included. Yeah. The thing that I think I'm fascinated with South Africa, and I think you had not heard this, Pale. I think I told you about Rodriguez and Sugarman. I've seen him live. You have? I have seen him live. I've done 2 episodes of the whole thing. It's a documentary called Searching for Sugarman that won a BAFTA and an Oscar. Yep. And I actually, when I was in Cape Town, I met... have you seen the movie, the documentary? Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So I became good friends with Sugar himself, the guy who has the record shop. And I went to his house and he told me the whole story. I did 2 episodes of my podcast. And then I also happened to be in South Africa when Rodriguez was back there doing a tour on my first visit in 2013, so I got to see him. I was on front row at Rodriguez. Yeah, go ahead. You were telling me something. Well, so for those of you who don't know, there is this singer Rodriguez who is an American, and it was late 60s, early 70s, right? It was when he had his music career, and he didn't really go anywhere. You know, he put, I think, 3 records or 4 records out. 2. Oh, no, 2. Only 2. Only 2 records. Yeah. And had just been living his life as a construction worker, general maintenance, in Michigan. And there's this, in South Africa, no other place in the world, he's like Bob Dylan. He's enormously famous. Yeah. There's all these rumors about how he died. He was bigger than Elvis. Bigger than Elvis. And people say that he committed suicide on stage. He lit himself on fire. And there's all sorts of rumors about how he died. Yeah. And Sugar, who you met, owned a record store in South Africa. And he was obsessed with him. And he found out that he's still alive. And he's in Michigan. And he called him and said, hey, come. I'd like you to come to South Africa and, play a concert. And Rodriguez thought, this is a prank. This isn't real. And they convinced him to go. Yeah. And it was insane. And so now he's done several tours there. And his daughter married the promoter. I think the tour was called Resurrection Tour. Yeah. It's crazy. Anyway, it's just a really crazy phenomenon. I don't know if he ever got paid the money that
the record publisher in South Africa definitely owes him a lot of money.
Not the ones from back then, but whatever he's selling now, he is making. But he still lives in the same old house in Detroit and gives away most of his money to his family, and so he's a very humble man. And obviously now he's an old guy.
Yeah.
And the music is great.
The music is great.
I normally say he's kind of like Bob Dylan, but he can actually sing.
Yeah, he is kind of like his music is reminiscent of Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's a very interesting story. The documentary was huge. A lot of people did see it, but I'm sure there's some listening to this podcast who have not seen it.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting South Africa phenomenon.
I've seen that more times than any other movie, and it's just called Searching for Sugar Man. Please watch it. It's absolutely amazing. And like I mentioned, it won an Oscar. And when I spoke to Sugar, he told Sugar Seegerman, Steven Seegerman is his name, but his nickname is Sugar. He got that nickname from the song Sugar Man. And he told me about when they were at the Oscars and they were at the Oscar party, and he said it was just a surreal experience being to the after party, meeting all these famous people, and really, really, really interesting.
Very cool. So anyway, we hope you'll join us in Durban, South Africa in October. It will be an amazing event. And, South Africa is a very diverse country, as Dannelle was saying before about Wisconsin. There's so many things to do there. And, Africa in general, South Africa specifically, is kind of one of those destinations that people have as a bucket list. They think they'll go there sometime in their life before they die. And, it's kind of those destinations because it's like Australia where you are now. People think it's so far away for those of us in the West. And it'll be so expensive and such an undertaking that, when we go there, it'll be an epic trip. But we kind of put that off later and later and later. Mm-hmm. But once people go the first time, they come back again and again and again. So going the first time is the hardest challenge for the tourist board to get people to come. So definitely use TBEX as your excuse and join us in Durban, South Africa in October.
And with that, thank you so much, Rick. It was good to see you as always.
Thank you, Pally.
I can't wait to join all these TBEX events coming up this year. It's going to be absolutely epic.
Enjoy your cruise to New Zealand, and we'll talk again once you get to New Zealand.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Travel Matters, the official podcast of TBEX. This episode of Travel Matters was hosted by TBEX CEO Rick Calvert and radio vagabond Palabo, and produced by radioguru.co.uk. See more about upcoming TBEX events on tbexcon.com. You can follow Palabo on theradiovagabond.com.